Welcome to the Your Life, Your Voice YouTube channel. Proudly brought to you by the Diversity and Disability Program at the Migrant Resource Centre, Northwest Region, where South Africans, organisations and the community interested in culturally and linguistically diverse and the disability sector get together.
The Diversity and Disability Program would like to acknowledge the Wurrung and Bunurong peoples of the Kulin Nation, the traditional owners of the land on which we work and live. We recognise their continued connection to land, water and the community. We pay our respects to elders past and present.
Nothing about us without us. We pay our respects to all South Africans who have worked tirelessly over many years for the right to live in a community and for equality and human rights for all.
This channel is for all those seeking to understand more about disability culture and community, to hear and learn from leaders and peers with disability, and to improve our individual advocacy skills.
This channel also aims to provide useful information about organisations and supports so that we can all live a better life in this world.
Nothing about us without us.
Every interview is unique as you and I. Your life, your voice. Be the voice of change in your life. Good morning and welcome to another edition of Your Life, Your Voice. My name is Julie Skiveris. I'd like to welcome my co-host, Antony Racco. Hi, Antony. How are you doing?
Yeah, good. Thanks, Julie. Good morning.
Yeah, and today we have a guest speaker, Emilio Solar. Sorry, Emilio, I messed that up. I'll leave it up to you to introduce yourself. So, So welcome, Emilio. And, this will be a great interview around transport and accessibility, which is Emilio's life and special interest.
Great, and good morning to everybody. Thank you for the opportunity of coming on and telling a little bit about myself and what I've been involved with. So that's really good. And the name is Emilio Savlay.
Cool. I stumble quite a lot with names, so
that's all right.
So, Emilio, can you tell us a little bit about your background?
Sure. I guess I go back to about 1984. That's kind of when my son was born as well. And I have a great affinity in terms of that date, as I said, because my son was born. But certainly I had a few jobs way before 84. However, that's when I stumbled upon, I suppose, the disability rights movement. And I was in between looking at jobs. And so I thought, I wonder what this is about. And certainly my passion was about transport. I was very interested in terms of transport because of my physical disability, having had polio as a child. I've known nothing else in terms of being able to get around on crutches and calipers in my younger days. And at that stage, it was difficult to get on a bus. There were no accessible buses way back then. And even prior to that, when I went to school, I went to a school called Coburg Tech. Some of you may know of that or may have heard of that. It no longer exists, I might say. But from there, I'd have to catch a bus from school to home. I only had the opportunity of getting it one way because I had funding to get to school by the education department, but I couldn't get funding to get back home. So the only way I had to get home was either rely on Dad to come and pick me up, but he was working 4 different shifts. And so it was public transport or the generosity of a neighbour that had one of their kids that travelled with me. Anyway, if I get back to public transport itself, it was difficult getting up the stairs with my crutches, with my calipers, trying to hobble up and get on a packed bus. And many a time I can remember letting several buses go because they were just too full. So that's when I was really, really disappointed in how there was a lack of understanding with regards to people with disabilities. But I didn't class myself really even then as a person with a disability. I just had some issues, and that's what I dealt with. It's just that the surrounds didn't really quite cater for my disability. Anyway, that was the first starting of me getting a bit upset at why isn't the environment okay for me. And so if I fast track it to 1984, when I commenced working for the Disability Resources Centre, I found a lot of people with disabilities that were, I suppose, angry was the first thing that I came across, because emblazoned in their office in large bold writing was transport access and access now, which kind of woke me up in a sense, if I could put it that way. The minute I saw this type of writing on a wall, I thought, really, do I want to be involved in that? But then I slowly warmed to that and thought, okay, it's a different perspective. There are people that are angry that people with disabilities don't have access to public transport as other people do. So I thought, maybe I'll give it a go. I'll give it a go. Because before that, I worked for a couple of different organisations, and they were private organisations or companies. One was called Singer Australia, for example, and another one was a taxi company called Regal Combined. So I had a different taste of private enterprise, if you will, as opposed to something completely different, being a political disability advocacy organisation. So that was the change, I thought, and I grew to like it because there were issues that propped up every time in regards to not just transport, but things like accommodation, income security, and so on. So it had a wide range of topics, but if I centralised it to transport, that was where I had my niche and found my niche in that area.
Anthony, Anthony is vision impaired. Would you like to weigh in on some of the issues that you've had with transport, public transport?
So with me, some of the issues I've had is with trains where it announces each stop, and it just happens to happen at the worst of times where the announcement isn't working for some reason, and so I'm like trying to figure out where I am, and try and pull up a phone app or something to see if I can quickly figure out where I am so I can get off at the right stop. I think that's an issue that I've had, and I actually really wanted to know. I'm not sure whether you know or not what how the train announcements work. Whether it's sort of like a thing where it's an automatic thing that sort of the train automatically announces, or it's a human thing where they have to press a button to make the announcement at each stop. But yeah, that's just one of the issues anyway.
I guess it's a combination of both, if I could explain it that way, because I know a little bit about how the announcements kind of work. You're partly right, Anthony. The announcements, they're generally recorded, and for example, if you're on a particular train and it's on a particular line, say Broadmeadows or down Frankston Way or something like that, the driver puts in a code as to what type of train they're driving, and also sets up the automated announcements as it comes to the next station, and it makes those announcements. So the driver doesn't necessarily have to make any of those announcements. However, they'll make announcements if the central control has warned the driver that there may be a problem down the line. So that's when the driver intervenes and makes that announcement. Or if somebody is playing up with the doors and the driver puts an announcement on the train to say, stop doing that. But generally speaking, and the driver, there are some drivers there which I think are really, really good. They're quite talkative to the passengers, and it puts you in a good mood if you have a driver that announces, this is the drive. This person is driving the train, whoever they are. They may give their name or just say, "Look, I'm the driver for today. Hope you enjoy your journey," and so on and so forth. And it just puts a nice note to your journey if the train is so full of passengers and you're just sort of sitting there. You may be on your ear pods or whatever, or playing games on the train, but it's nice when a driver makes an announcement. It's also comforting, I suppose, but as well as that, they provide information. That's the main point that I was trying to get at.
Yeah, no, that's right. I think that is a nice touch. It sort of puts that, human aspect behind things, and it does sort of, pick you up. It's like when you're on a plane and the pilot is, and I'm the pilot for today, and tells you, when you'll be touching down and things like that,
I can relay a story to you. I travelled from Melbourne to Brisbane one time, and there was a female pilot on that day, and as we're coming in to Brisbane Airport, she announces her name and says basically, we'll be coming into Brisbane Airport. Please, fasten your safety belts and so on. You'll see a sign come up. But let's get this mother off on the ground. It was just so funny. It cracked up the whole bloody plane. Everybody was laughing because this just came out of the blue. It was fantastic.
But did she actually swear, or?
No, she said, let's get this mother on the ground. Mother, as in, let's get this plane on the ground.
Well, just on the female issue, with transport.
Yes.
There's initiatives that have been around for a little while now that are accepting female drivers. So traditionally, train driving was a male-dominated employment opportunity.
Yep.
And I actually know a female train driver.
Great.
And it's very well paid. So
it's very well paid.
Really well paid.
Yes.
For a lot of reasons.
Yep.
It's, it could be, you get training and all that sort of stuff. But yeah, there's a sad side to train drivers and what they have to go through also, which we
Absolutely.
won't get into that because we like to make this program positive. But if people want to investigate that, that'd be a good opportunity. I wish I was a few years younger. I would definitely be interested in something like that. Yes. So how about we move on, gentlemen? Anthony, would you like to ask the second question?
Yes. Okay. Okay. So what goals have you achieved and how did you navigate yourself around to achieve these goals?
Okay. If I can talk about being involved or working with the Department of Transport and Infrastructure back in 2000, I was employed as the senior policy advisor. And a lot of that work was trying to improve access for people with disability on public transport. Now, that's a broad term on public transport. That included buses, trains, trams, taxis, and its infrastructure, bus stops, railway stations, even airports, for example. And I must admit, it broadened my mind as well, but it also provided me with the opportunity of getting some things happening. And by that I mean, for example, when we talk about bus stops, it's not just the bus that comes to the bus stop. It's actually also being able to board the bus, because originally, like I said before, there were basically, I call it the olden days, where there were just steps that you had to deal with. But as buses were improved, we then obtained kneeling buses. In other words, the bus would have airbags and the ability for the driver to press a button and the bus would come closer to the ground. They then could deploy a ramp for boarding, for example, and that improved access to people with disabilities, and not just trains, but buses as well. So we started to get a bit more movement happening in the transport area. And dare I say, that improved the situation because you could get a bus to a railway station. And also the railway station itself originally, after we got rid of what we call the red rattlers, they were old wooden trains with very narrow doors. We had the Harris cars or Harris train sets, and they were sliding doors and they opened up quite wide, which meant then that you could get a ramp to be put beside the train doors to allow a person in a wheelchair or with a mobility aid to be able to get in the train. So that opened up a lot more travel prospects for people with disabilities. So I think they were really good steps forward, but the story didn't end there. I mean, it's still ongoing now, but it did open up access for people with disability because the only option that they had was taxis, wheelchair accessible taxis, for example, apart from just average or plain old suburban cabs. If you had a disability and you could get in and out of a taxi, that's great. But if you had a mobility aid of some description, the only other option for you to travel was via a taxi, and that was still quite expensive. I mean, we do have half-price taxi fares, but still, to take a trip these days, it can be quite expensive. So they're the some of the improvements, and I'd like to think one of the areas that was of major advantage in regards to you, Anthony, was announcements on trains and on buses. It's not working well, dare I say. Sometimes it has its hiccups, but there have been vast improvements. And also, for example, announcements on railway stations for people with hearing impairments, as in, when I say announcements on railway stations, that is written text on the screen so that the person with the hearing impairment can see on the screen that there's a different announcement, or the next train is whatever it is that's coming past that railway station. So those sort of advances really improved information for the person with a disability, whether they be visually impaired or whether they were hearing impaired. And also, I'm sure you'll agree, Anthony, with the TGSIs, or as we call them, tactile ground surface indicators, to be able to assist you in navigation, either in or out of the railway station or at the bus stop.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. I think the announcements, you know, when because they do work the majority of the time, and yeah, they're great. And the announcements on the actual platform. So normally, I would check, you know, on the PTV app or something like, okay, the train is supposed to be, you know, arriving on this certain platform at this time. And then the announcement comes over, and you know it'll reconfirm that okay, yep, great. Or it may say if there's a delay or not, which is awesome.
Well, that sorry, Anthony. I was just going to sorry for butting in there, but that in itself was a big leap forward in terms of direct access to you via a mobile phone with an app that you could either read or see that, and track how long that service will be for you, whether it's a bus or whether it's a train. You know, that's terrific, really.
Yes, no, definitely. And you mentioned the announcements on buses. Is that on just certain buses? Because I've never actually come across that.
Oh, that's a pity. Dare I say, it's more of the newer buses that are being built. The buses have a general span of life, and it's thought in some cases there's no putting that technology onto an older bus, but for newer buses they're rolling that out as a standard type of installation, if I could say that. And the improvement to the bus itself, because they've been able to drop the floor a lot closer to the curb, say, for example, when you're getting a wheelchair or a scooter out of the bus and onto ground level, those sorts of applications. And the doors are opening a bit wider. And it's incremental, but it does make a big change at the end of the day. I personally would like to see that we've got a full concrete platform from the first door to the second door of a bus, so that you've got the flow going in one door and out the other door, is what I would like to see. But unfortunately, some people have differences of opinion. However, if I go back to the announcements, this is where it's really, really important, because it will announce major stops or intersections that you're coming close to. And if you've got your app with you, that will tell you as well. And this interaction between app and bus is really, really important to be able to synchronise so that you know exactly where you are. Dare I say, parents can track kids where they are too sometimes.
No, that's fantastic, because you know, I'm a big, technology is a big part of, how I'm able to get around and sort of
Oh,
do
yes,
things. So,
absolutely.
and
Hundreds of people with disabilities would agree with you on that. Technology has been a vast improvement for us.
so
Yep.
when I was sort of thinking about how, because I didn't know it actually existed, the
Oh,
announcements on buses. So I was thinking, okay, so how, because I use certain apps that use GPS,
yes.
and a lot of the times it's not very accurate. Like,
Oh,
um, like sometimes it may lag, so you may have already passed the stop by the time it
yes.
tells you the stop, and I think that just depends on the GPS signal at the
Yeah.
time.
I think they're
So,
getting better at that. It has improved.
so I was thinking that if there was a way that an app could just connect straight to the bus, and the bus, tells the app, okay, this is where I am,
Correct.
then that might be, more accurate.
Yes. I think there's a couple of technologies. Oh, no, the name escapes me, but you're right. There is a technology that will access one of two ways: information from what the bus is telling, and you can get that information direct to your mobile phone. And I'm forgive me, but I can't recall. I think it's called Ant. There's an application that works, but don't quote me on that just yet. I'm a bit unclear on that, exactly what that technology is called. But yes, they are working on that.
Yeah, oh, that's fantastic.
Yep.
Just a couple of points there. So when we're developing technologies, improvements for people with disabilities in public transport, it helps many other people. So I am terrible with geography and stuff. So, having announcements saying next stop is, and it allows people with prams and the elderly to get ready to get off. Yes, sometimes trains are crowded and trains are crowded. So yes, I'm in favour of universal designs, which are becoming much more accessible for everyone, the whole community, from birth to death. So that's what I aim for when I'm doing consultations with PTV and other people. So just on the PTV, Public Transport Victoria, like you mentioned a few things, Emilio. Have you been involved in the new design of? This is a question we haven't spoken, we haven't sourced. But have you been involved with the new public transport buses?
The new buses, way back. Oh, and I'd have to go probably 2018, 19, somewhere around there. But I was just giving comment because I wasn't in the department then. I was out of the department. But if they sent me an invitation, I would venture out at one of their trial times and pass comment about the actual vehicle itself, how easy or difficult that vehicle is to be able to get on board, where things are placed. One of the things that I can actually say now with some of the new vehicles, I don't know who, but my message to PTV is take the actual sticker and move it up a bit, because you can't see out of the window. For those that would like to look out the window, you've got this sticker in place to say this is reserved seating. And although I admire that, it's in my field of vision of anybody sitting there that it interrupts. And I'm thinking, what were they thinking at the time? So, yes, I have been involved before, but I haven't passed comment about what I've just told you just now about this damn sticker. But I like to get involved when and where I can. Just recently, I attended a trial in terms of a new design that a university was thinking of putting across to the department, and that was a different boarding device to be able to assist wheelchair users and scooter users to be able to board at a particular door at a set height that it would match the same height as the actual vehicle. In other words, a train that would come along or a tram that would come along. So I passed some comments about that. Little did I know, at the same time, they had also another trial happening, which I was glad that it was there, and that was to trial how people with disabilities gain access to a charging station for an electric vehicle. In my recent time of engagement now, I'm the president of Disabled Motorists Australia, and it was very fortuitous that at that same stage I was able to trial how a person with a disability, specifically a wheelchair user, was able to take the charging unit and try and plug it in the vehicle, which is really important these days when we're looking down the track of electric vehicles becoming accessible to people with disabilities. And they haven't even begun to have those discussions. And I was glad to be a part of that, for example. So I'm all for trying to pass comment, and I encourage others, if they hear of various times that the PTV or other universities are calling for public interest or input, I would gladly and happily say, go for it. You know, it's your opportunity to be able to help shape discussions around that as well.
Yeah, I've been a very interesting person the other day. I went to Canberra for a meeting, and I met this support worker who has a PhD in cyber. Are we familiar with cyber? The cyber is basically an amalgamation of computers, AI, and people. So I'm reading the PhD as a bit of a interest piece.
Right.
And as we know, AI has come a long way in amalgamating humans and allowing humans to participate in society. So I'm finding the actual PhD really quite fascinating. So yes, if anyone wants to get the title for that, it's under Tanya Honey. She's the PhD person, doctor, and I'm finding it really fascinating because cyborg has been around for a very long time. And, usually technologies are developed for during really difficult times in society, like during wars and stuff like that, where the internet was actually designed for communications in wartime. And then 30, 40 years down the track, it's sort of further gets developed for the public. Sorry about that. Yes, so if anyone's interested, message me on Your Life, Your Voice at gmail.com. Just a bit of a side issue there.
No, that's fantastic, Julie, because anything like that is really fascinating. It opens up doors for people with disabilities. I mean, we wouldn't have thought 10 years ago, for example, that we could have Zoom, you know, or maybe I'm the one that's old in that stage. I never heard of it 10 years ago. But it's for people with disabilities, whether it's Zoom or Teams or whatever program, that has opened up doors for people with disabilities. They can be in their own home and participate in meetings and feel they're a part of the discussions. And that's so important, to feel engaged and feel part of the community. When you're ostracised, or when you're at home and you can't get out, it saddens me in that sense, because they're valuable. People, whether they have disabilities or not, everyone is valuable. You know, they're human beings, and to be able to participate, I just think it's so wonderful. Yeah.
With all this said about COVID and all the negatives, a lot of positives did come out of it, and not only for people with disabilities, but for others, like, you know, people that find it difficult to travel for family reasons, and, you know, all the debates that are happening now around alternative working arrangements, you know. And so it's opened up a can of worms in for a lot of people and sectors, and working productively. I mean, like, if you can work productively at home, why not have the opportunity to work productively? And people with disabilities now, you know, don't have to travel on trains and public transports and that sort of stuff, which are huge barriers for many people with disabilities.
Well, Julie, just sorry to interrupt, but just look at how many people have decided to work from home, not just people with disability. And they're talking about it now on the news. Let's try and get people back into the workspace. Well, hello, they don't want to go back into the workspace because they like working from home. So I think that's just a really good idea. I really do.
Well, it's opening up a can of worms for personnel, and for there's another word which has lost me at the moment. But it's opening a can of worms, and the worms are not going to go back in.
No, that's right.
So now employers are being forced to renegotiate and have a different way of thinking about employment, you know, and it's so, you know, for all the negatives that COVID did bring, there are tons of, you know, opportunities for people who, you know, were shut out of employment opportunities, you know, and who have all this knowledge and experience and expertise, and now, you know, are in you know, they're in a very good bargaining position, and, you know, everyone, like the whole, you know, people within working age criteria, they're in a really huge bargaining position that some employers don't like. Some have embraced it, and many haven't. And so it's really interesting along the lines of HR and employment. Any other comments?
I was just going to add, Julie, and this is slightly to one side, but you talked about AI technology and also interaction between, shall we say, humans and technology. I certainly am in favour of that, because that opens up doors for people with physical disabilities that can't get around that easily. And I actually watched a program from America where they actually wired up, and this is fact, they actually wired up through the brain, and this person was able to control their wheelchair just by their thought. And they were able to control it to such a degree that they were improving their their knowledge in terms of understanding how the brain works, but also how they can control this chair by the person's own ability. Now, just imagine how you could advance that. I mean, it's mind-boggling and it's mind-blowing, but it's fantastic. You know, that's a world that hasn't really been explored. Now, what could you do with that? That's so huge. We talk about autonomous vehicles. I can imagine a day when you could not just own, you don't need to own a vehicle. You just call up a vehicle, it arrives at your doorstep, you jump in the vehicle, and you have command of that vehicle to take you wherever you want. You get out of that vehicle and it goes off on its merry way to serve somebody else. I just think that's fantastic. I really do.
Yeah, that's definitely one of the things that I'm looking forward to. And over the past few years, I've been sort of looking at the progress that it's making, and it's getting, you know, I think it's almost there now with the way they're sort of, with the advancements of AI and everything, that it's actually really improved just vastly just in the last year, I guess. Yeah, I think it's really exciting. Even like the AI sort of apps that are coming out now. I have an app that I can take a photo of something, and then the AI will describe everything in that photo to, like, the, you know, to the detail, and then I can ask questions about that photo if it didn't give me all the information I was looking for.
Great.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
Yeah, one of my colleagues who I do quite a bit of work with is obsessed with Tesla. Like, he wants to get a Tesla. And he actually had a test drive.
Yes.
I don't know exactly when. And, you know, he wants to, like, have, you know, get someone to design a concept car for Elon Musk to maybe catch on to enable people with disabilities to have, you know, greater access in transport. So yeah, so a shout out to Yusuf. So he'll have a bit of a chuckle with this when he views the video. Yes, yes. So, you know, why not? Why not? Because, you know, there's a big market there for people with disabilities who'll be shut out of you know, having autonomy with transport. So, you know, the markets are there, you know, for a reason. So there's a great demand, as some person, you know, has the ability to design autonomous vehicles. So it's only really, I'd say it's only really a decade away, quite honestly. So it's within our lifetime, hopefully, since we lived that long. So yeah.
Let's put it this way, Julie. I would say that a lot of companies out there are keeping very tight-lipped about where their technology is at the moment, because they want to be the first. Yep. And that's the advantage. If they can be the first, then they've captured a slice of that market. I mean, that's business-wise. I just think the market is there in so many different ways, and are others that we haven't even begun to think of, you know. And this is just, we're on the cusp of, as they say these days, on the cusp of broadening our horizons in ways that we don't quite understand. But I think I wish I was younger. That's all I can say, is because I really want to see what's going to come. I can remember when I was on the, here we go, Telstra Regional Consumer Consultative Council. I think that's right. And I was there as part of the disability fraternity when we were just talking about, and the guest speaker there was saying that the copper wire that we have that comes to the house, we won't be using that much more. We will be using mobile phones, and we'll be using internet at the speed of light. When we send light down a cable, that travels at the speed of light, and we will have fast connections. Well, I mean, that was something like 30 odd years ago, but if I look at it now, I say, wow, look at what we can achieve, and this is really only a speck of time. And at that stage, I had said, well, why don't we give everybody, all people with disabilities, a mobile phone? That way they can use it for an emergency if they need to, because they've got instant access to calling somebody. And I was laughed at. Now, I mean, companies bend over backwards to sell you a mobile phone and a plan. They want you on a plan. And I think, oh, my God, how we've changed. And when you consider, at that stage, I was also told that it cost $10,000 to put a payphone in the street, and you've got a mobile phone in your hand that you've got instant communication all over the world. You think, wow. And that mobile phone, as I have here, for example, you've got so much ability to communicate, not just emails, but FaceTime and all that sort of stuff, more than what I could mention on this bloody damn thing. It's just mind-blowing. It really is, how you have something in the power or in your hand that you can do quite a vast amount of stuff. Like you said before, Anthony, about apps to tell you, navigation apps, or PTV app that tells you how far away your train is or your bus is, and so on. It's just amazing if we just apply our minds to the betterment of humanity and people with disabilities. So much positivity can come out of it, I think, and it's all better for people with disability. Really?
Yeah, I agree. And it wasn't that long ago where, a computer would need to fit in the size of a gymnasium or something.
Yeah.
And now our phones are basically a computer that's 100 times more powerful than that was, or probably a lot more
Didn't
than
they
that.
say somewhere that, I think this is right, that the power that this phone, the average mobile phone has more power than the lunar module that landed on the moon, the very first astronauts that landed on the moon. Their computer was nowhere near as proficient as what our mobile phones were. Now it's just like, wow. Can't describe it.
I'd like to weigh in on this topic because I've got some first-hand experience. So in the 80s, I got into computer operating.
Oh, good.
Did a course in TAFE, and it was the start of the computer revolution. So we were a government organisation and public service. And like we've all been saying, we had the processes, all these processes, all these modems, the modems of things that transfer the data in a big room. And I was on the other end typing in commands. And yes, so I was at the really start of the computer revolution, and it allowed me to set up my life, in terms of housing and other things in my life. So I'm very grateful for that time. Yes. And you are right, 100% right. Our phones are so much more powerful than these processes. At that time, our main clients were motor registration branch, which were online 24 hours. So police would stop someone on the road and they had access to our 24-hour online system. We also had a main client with the education department. We used to print out their checks every fortnight, and then we progressed from checks to advice slips. Then our technology improved from big magnetic tapes, which are like a cassette. If anyone was born in the 60s, 70s, they will know what a cassette is. And so it's the magnetic strip with your songs on it. So we had that technology. And from there, we advanced to cartridges, which are a lot smaller, which held a lot more data. And in today's world now, we have the SD cards, which are basically storage devices. So we've come a long way in technology, in communications. And yes, so like I'm very, very, I wish I was 20 years younger, because I like to see the advancement.
Yes, I agree.
On a side issue, when I was in primary school, I predicted that in my lifetime we'll have tourism space travel. So I think with us, people that are in the sector, we all have forward thinking. And people laugh at us, but that's fine. But when we have the last laugh, that's very, very, very satisfying.
True.
So yes, so do we have time for one more question? Let's see. Which question should we ask? How about we end with a futuristic question? So what's your vision for people with disabilities in 20 years' time?
Oh, God.
Emilio, I know we sort of like covered it a little bit, really, but what would you like to see?
Well, I did touch on before about the ability that you could call up or request a vehicle to turn up and take you wherever your heart desired. I'd love to see that. Although I like driving, and as I said before, I'm involved with the Disabled Motorists Australia, and their passion is to be able to drive even if you've got a disability, because you can get modifications to your vehicle. But what about one step further, where we have situations where as you get older, unfortunately, there may come a time when you might have to give up your licence. Well, what that amounts to is, in some cases, people saying your life is kind of over because you don't have the ability to get around as you once did. So if I bring the issue of the vehicle that comes to you wherever you are, you've then got that autonomy to get out and about and do whatever it is that you want to do. That's what I would like to see. And the other part is, if there's technology that would assist with dementia. I'm at a point that my folks are in a nursing home and my dad has dementia, and the only reason why they're in the nursing home is because Dad's got dementia. So if technology could improve the quality of life in terms of that, I'd like to see that happen, because that would free up so many situations out there in the community where people are tied into nursing homes. Not that I've got anything against nursing homes, let's say. It's just technology is then able to assist in that area.
That's a great idea. Anthony, do you have any other comments?
Yeah, no, I totally agree, and I actually think I can see a future where self-driving cars will be the only cars on the road, and humans won't be allowed to drive because it's too dangerous.
Yes.
It'll be that self-driving cars are so safe that it doesn't make sense for humans to drive anymore. I don't know how long away that would be. That could be a fair while off, but I feel like probably within the next 5 years, self-driving cars will be roaming the streets.
I totally agree. I drive a motor vehicle, and I don't like driving. It's a necessity. But yes, so I would love a self-driving car. It'll make my day. So yes. So on that note, thank you, Emilio and Antony, for a great interview. And we'll see you in 2 weeks' time for another edition of our last edition for the year of Your Life, Your Voice. Bye now.
Catch us on Your Life, Your Voice channel fortnightly or on demand.
We would like your comments and suggestions on topics you would like us to explore. Leave your comments on the YouTube comments section.
Diversity and Disability is a program of the Migrant Resource Centre Northwest Region Incorporated.
And we'd like to thank the management for funding this program and channel.
Phone number 1300 676 044.
Please feel free to email us on dndyourlifeyourvoice@gmail.com or contact us via the Migrant Resource Centre Northwest Region Incorporated.